In 1981, 2 years after graduating 1 year early from high school, I got my associate's degree in small business management. With degree in hand, I was hired as store manager at Pier 1 Imports at Grossmont Center. It was a great experience, but it showed me I would rather manage children than adults that act like children. So off I went to San Diego State University to pursue my bachelor's degree in liberal studies, and then I also got my multiple subjects teaching credential there. I always had a passion for teaching and being around children. Teaching was a career that would allow me to be a working mother and raise my family. I have 4 sons, Martin, Weston, Jordan, and Jesse. When my youngest son was 2 years old, I was hired at Alta Murrieta Elementary School, where I have taught grades 1 through 5. 16 years later, my sons are all grown, and I find myself on the last column of my pay scale. It was a good time for me to get my master's degree. So I asked around, and the education technology program at APU was highly recommended to me by my friends and colleagues. In fact, I would have never considered this course of study because my brain is not wired for technology. I had trouble the first night of class because I didn't even know how to turn on my new computer. Luckily, I met my new friend Jody Barniak at orientation, who was an alien to the digital world just like me. Together, we marched through the program supporting one another along the way. We both faced adversities during the program, and at times, we felt like we were barely hanging on. But we are victorious tonight as we celebrate the completion of the program and our capstone projects. I plan to implement what I have learned into my 5th grade class next year. I also plan to continue learning computer skills by taking classes at Mount San Jacinto College. I plan to be a lifelong learner, even into my old age. The first class of my journey through the EdTech program was Class 512 with Jim Sullivan, Instructional Application and Product Software. He was very knowledgeable in showing us the hardware portions of a computer. My next class was Education 515, Evolving Educational Technology with Lance Martin. We learned how to do vodcast and podcast, and I did my first iMovie on a case study. In the summer of 2011, I took Digital Age Literacies with Jim Pinkard. We learned about live binders, and we had a lot of online students, so we had online discussions and collaborations. Another class I took that summer was 514, Digital Video in the Classroom with Tori Temple. This was my favorite class where I made the action-packed movie Jesse the Jet Saves the Day about my son being a BMX superhero. In the fall of 2011, I took 517, Working with Digital Imaging. It was somewhat of a disappointment because I never grasped the Photoshop Elements program. The next class I took was 522 with Nicole Malone, Learning in the 21st Century. It focused on the multiple intelligences. I also wrote my unit plan on animals that lay eggs in this class. In spring of 2012, I took 519 Document Design for Classrooms with Matt Hickson. Here we worked on our growth assessment and action research projects and were introduced to InDesign and iBook. In spring 2012, I took the Hypermedia Enhanced Learning Environment Class 523 with Tori Temple. I made an interactive hypermedia keynote presentation about animals that lay eggs. The other class I took in the spring of 2012 was 520, Creating Web Media with Tori Temple. I created a website for storing my lesson plans in hopes of going paperless someday. I also created this logo, Team Molitor. That finally brings us to 526, the capstone. Finishing this capstone during this difficult time in my life is definitely one of the most difficult challenges I have faced. With the support of God, my instructor Matt Hickson, and my awesome classmates, I am achieving what I set out to do.